The American theorist Jean Legay argues along the lines of Böhme for an extension of the concept of aesthetics, but notes that we need to take the trivial feelings such as envy, irritation, paranoia, and fear of exclusion into consideration, as these emotions also attune our bodies and influence on our experiences and perceptions of ourselves, others, and the world. The effective orchestration in this regard not only relates to pleasure, wants, and needs, but also ugly feelings, which, according to Legay's Adorno-inspired arguments, fuel the capitalistic system of production. Arguing that dysphoric feelings are the fuel of the capitalistic society runs on, echoes Laurent Balland's notion that contemporary society is characterized by cruel optimism. The focal point of Balland and Legay is how our relations to the world is understood as opportunities, possibilities, and chances, but does not necessarily result in them. Taking the trivial feelings into account poses the possibility of addressing the role of ugly feelings in the setting of atmosphere, pointing to, Legay notes, their role in the aestheticization of life as understood in terms of cruel optimism. For Böhme, the critical potential of an aesthetic theory of production of atmospheres and experience quality address in terms of Legay the naturalization of aestheticization as the only way to obtain the good life. In that sense, Böhme and Legay both note that feelings and ugly feelings expand and transform categories for aesthetic feelings, which our surroundings set the stage for and are characterized by being non-cathartic. They do not offer satisfaction. Atmospheres of non-cathartic feeling in that regard produce and foreground the unredeemed, allowing for an attunement and contagiousness, appealing for recognition of this state of impasse as a shared emotional state. In relation to the production of atmospheres in this perspective of Legay, the polyrhythmic aspects of the tuned space is addressed. It is not only through the affective recognizable settings we are affected, but also through the moments of striking inactivity. What is produced are experience qualities of ambiguity, a state of affective disorientation that fascinates and results in involvement in a particular empathic way. Atmospheres of ugly feelings promote an ironic distance, which the non-trivial feelings are unable to, that enables involvement in the state of impasse related to the fantasy of the good life, ever unreachable. The new aesthetic critical potential consists of a critique of this perception of how only a specific atmospheres affect us, such as art, stated by Walter Benjamin, or the influence on the perception of subjectivity by the biotechnological realm, as argued by Nicholas Rose. What is neglected is the orchestration of our everyday life and its polyrhythmic characteristics. The concept of atmosphere, however, also offers critical insight into the naturalization of aestheticization and its claim as the perspective of the world. Atmospheres are first and foremost phenomenological. They sharpen the senses. Humans must, according to Böhme, be understood as bodily anchored in the world. We experience the world bodily. The experience of presence of humans, objects, and surroundings, and the awareness of this presence points to the centrality of affect in the process of perception and their power to increase or diminish our possibilities to act and react on the organization of our life world. The referred discussions of the centrality of aesthetics are reflections of and reactions on the polyrhythmic aspects of contemporary societies and how individuals disassemble, transform, and give new meaning to their experience or consume. It is discussions that centers on dialectics of signification and interpretation, and how the reflexive accumulation results in an image culture, which in terms of Janssen is anti-aesthetic, whereas Böhme and Negay, on the contrary, points to the relevance of an expansion of aesthetics. Where Janssen notes how consume is transformed from the value of functionality to image value, built on simulations, Böhme argues that the image value or atmosphere has less to do with the communicational value and more with the state they set us in, how the image directly involves the body's affective apparatus. It is through our encounter with our surroundings that we are affected bodily, sensuously, and emotionally. Wasted and the vlogs of Sylvia and Peter orchestrate atmospheres which experience qualities foreground certain imaging of the world, but also appeals to experience it from a different perspective. The affectivity of the atmosphere in the vlogs and Wasted is related to the contagious ability on a bodily and emotional level to attune the viewer or visitor to a banal and sensational bodily and emotional aspect of the infertility and fertility projects mediated. The involvement in and detachment from the bodily and emotional strange and yet familiar elements is at the same time presupposed and challenged by the aesthetic affective dimension. Tomoki Mukayami's Wasted. Quote, Wasted is a visual and musical journey connecting different people and places through a celebration of the 21st century human body. Unquote. The abstract cathedral-like space of thousands of white dresses and Wasted engaged the visitor on a concrete aesthetic affective level through the walk through and touch of dresses, torn and blood-soaked dresses, hanging in the center of the installation, and an invitation to contribute with own stories. In Water Children, a documentary on Wasted from 2011, Tomoko Mukayami notes that the installation is connected to her realization of the expiration of her ability to give birth, and that the installation this way is about the ability to give life, life itself and death. Visitors are invited to actively engage with the installation by contributing their own menstruation blood to one of the 12,000 dresses and share their thoughts about the meanings of this blood. The narratives in form of a video, photos, text, poetry, objects and paintings provide inspiration for Mukayami's improvisations of Bach's Go-Bo variations, a way for her to connect the many individual stories brought about by the engagement with the installations, stories of oneself and others. The center of the installation, where blood-soaked torn dresses hang heavily down, provides a gauzy abstract work with ontological gravity that also is reflected in the title of the work. The work is, as the visitor reflects, quote, Requiem for the life that had the potential of being born, but is washed away, life ultimately lost, unquote. In the documentary Water Children, the work of Mukayami is added an informational component, extending the work as an expression of an artist's experience of loss into the stories of individuals and couples on meanings of in and fertility. The installation is engaged in taking the feelings and valuations of the visitor regarding the ability and inability to give life into consideration. In Water Children, the installation is taken to this village Sangamura in Japan, where most residents never have visited a museum. The abstraction of the installation, however, is not viewed as problematic. On the contrary, the experience quality of the cathedral-like space aspirates through its aesthetic and affective dimension for narratives about something shared.